Hey everybody, so today we're going to talk about wealth transfer and making money because we've all been sitting here waiting, hoping for a time where prices get lower, better entry points arise, and we're able to get rich, right? Or at least make some decent investments and not overpay for things. And we'll get all into that first. We'll look at Journey Together prices. I'm going to try and do this at least a couple times a week. Maybe every day was a little bit too much, but $214 on the Lilies Clefairy, Salaman's $120, and Zorak still over 100, around 110. Bella Bolt holding around $100. Hopzation's continuing to drop, and Zorak is top 6 card around $45. Articuno's dropped a little bit. Whale Lord is actually in the low 20s now. En's Reshiram's below $20. So keep an eye on those illustration risks. I think eventually there's going to be a point, and we're going to talk about this in this video for other sets as well, where people are just going to pull the trigger and start buying. So to get into it, right, we all know that a lot of things were maybe not overpriced, but there weren't really solid entry points for a lot of products over the past 3 months. Everything was being bought up. Pokemon's at an all-time high. Everyone, their mom, wants to open cards and hold sealed product. And we're starting to see things maybe change a little bit. And a lot of people didn't know what this was going to look like, myself included. We didn't know if there was going to be a pullback in demand for the hobby, if Pokemon was going to increase printing. Who could have figured that tariffs were going to come and there was going to be problems with the economy? Maybe it's going to be a combination of all of it at the end of the day. But Destined Rivals, I think this is the first one to point out, booster boxes today for pre-orders are selling under $300. And to me, this is surprising. I really did not expect this. I could have seen this box being like $400 at release, honestly. But it's coming down into that $280 range, and it might even go lower. There are a couple boxes that are performing decently well over the past month or so, and even over the past week. Chilling Rain, this is one that was down to around $300 USD, now selling pretty consistently around $320. You have a couple lower ones here, $315, $316, but you have a couple higher ones, $325. I did think this box at $300 was maybe a little bit undervalued. People can disagree with that all they want. Crown Zenith continuing to do well, pushing into the 140s now and even mid 130s for sales on the low end. That's fine also. And then Paldea Evolved, rather. I always get Paldea Evolved and Paldea and Fates mixed up, but Paldea Evolved pushing into the 230s, post reprint, still doing very well. Tons of demand for this set. It's probably one of the best sets in SV era in terms of booster boxes. So there you go. But unfortunately, there are a lot of sets that have stagnated, a lot of cards that saw all-time highs, and we're seeing huge pullbacks on them. And it's going to get to a point, guys, whether it's in a week from now, a month from now, a couple months from now, where those prices drop so far that the entry points are going to become very attractive and people are going to start buying up a lot of these cards, a lot of these boxes, and they're going to be the ones making money long term. And I don't know if it's going to be in Sword and Shield era. For example, the Gengar, like a lot of these top cards, the Gengar's holding around 640, the Umbreon's holding quite steady. Also, Giratina, same sort of thing. Like these cards have seen a little bit of a pullback, 10% or so, but nothing crazy. Lugia, that's pulled back as well. For these cards, like the Lugia, if this gets into that 220-ish range, 210, 220, I think you'd see a lot of people jumping on it. Giratina, if this dropped to around $500-ish where it was back in May, maybe even $550, I think you'd see a lot of those getting bought up. Gengar, same sort of thing, maybe in that $400, $450 range, maybe even $500. Maybe the May-June high was a little bit too low. So these cards do have a ways to go, but before I think most people find them attractive entry points. Giratina as well from Crown Zenith. This one's pulling back a bit, $215, now selling around $185, and most recent sale is $211 though. But I think a lot of these cards do have to continue to pull back, whereas with the Scarlet and Violet era cards, which we're going to look at in a second, a lot of them are actually fairly close to, I think, people starting to buy them up again. And some are going to be better plays than others, but for the sake of this video, I took a card from every set except Shrouded Fable, just because I forgot to load one, but I think if you threw like the Persian in there, the Dust Noir, that'd probably be the pick from Shrouded Fable. To start off with SV base, Gardevoir. This card is at an all-time high. You could have chosen the Drowsy, which is down to that $30, $33 range again. But I think Gardevoir just long-term. If you see this card around $30, $35, like if it pulled back that far, I think that'd be a decent entry point. And you guys are going to see a trend in terms of, the May-June high of last year. I think if card prices hit that, or maybe even if they're like 10% higher, 15% higher than that, I think that's going to be a decent point where a lot of people start buying. Magikarp, this card was up to around $280, sitting around $225 currently, And again, like this card would probably have to be under $200 for a lot of people to want to buy it. You can see a lot of light plays selling in the 180 range currently. Those are actually all the recent sales, light plays, no even near mints. For Obsidian Flames, I know a lot of people probably would have chosen the Charizard to watch. I still think the Ninetales is worth watching. This card was up to around $35 at its peak. And back in June, it was like a $10 card. So I think if this thing drops any further, I think this is already like a decent place to buy $18, $20. But if this drops back down to $12, $13, $14, I know the pull rates for Obsidian Flames, because it was a smaller set, less illustration rares, makes it easier to pull these cards. But still, I think this should be worth more than $12, $14. So keep an eye on this one. Paradox Rift, same sort of deal. The Groudon, sure, it was over $100. It's dropping back down into the 90s now. Where do you want to buy? $60, $70 maybe. So this one might have a bit further to go. Next up, we have the Ghastly from Temporal Forces. Again, you could have gone with any of the Paradox Dogs, the Raging Bolt, or the Walking Wake, one of those. But I chose the Ghastly. This card's already fallen a fair amount. It was up to around $60, back down to around 40. And again, like the June high of last year was $33. So I think we're getting close to a point where it might be worth picking this card up again. Keep an eye out for deals on this one. Same thing, Twilight Masquerade. This Eevee has just, fallen off a cliff essentially. It was over $100 at its high, now selling low $60. And I think you do have some sales, maybe like a couple right below $60 from today. And I think yesterday they were more, but today it looks like it's selling more consistently in the mid 60s. Keep an eye on this one though. I think that's already like a fairly decent pullback. Where some people might start buying again. And look, like back in June of last year, this was already a $60 card, so you're getting fairly close to those highs. Bulbasaur from Stellar Crown. Now, the interesting thing with some of these newer sets is we haven't seen these cards outside of the boom era, and we'll talk about the Pikachu up next from Surging Sparks. Again, this set came out in August, September, around that time, right? So it kind of had a couple months before Pokemon started blowing up. It was up to $70. Again, I don't really know what I'd be buying this at. Maybe if it was down around 40-ish again, it might be worth buying. A little too high for my liking at 55. The Pikachu, another very interesting card. This was kind of the catalyst for Pokemon to become popular again. One of those initial sets that came out before Prismatic that really popped off. So we haven't seen this card perform at all outside of a very booming market. I don't even know if I'd buy this card at $350. I imagine though, if this card breaks into the 2s, the 280s, the 290s, we're going to start to see some people buy up. A lot of other people might even wait till the low 200s, especially with more reprints coming, this card being out there for a long time. The Charizard EX, same sort of deal. Lots of copies of the Charizard out there, but it has fallen a fair amount from around $300 to the $230, $240 range. Again, I think if this card drops below $200, which it hasn't done since October of last year, that's probably where a lot of people would start buying it up again. Bubble Mew, same sort of deal. If this is, I don't even know, like $300, if it breaks below that, people might start buying it again. Maybe you want to wait till $250 if it ever gets there. And then finally, I just want to touch on Prismatic Evolutions. A lot of these evolutions I think are going to be decent buys eventually. And they're kind of all over the place right now, which is interesting. A lot of them, like the Flareon, had jumped up after release. Same thing with the Leafeon. This one's actually continued to climb. It's now like only $20, I think, behind the Sylveon for second place in the set. The Umbreon stayed kind of steady, and now it's kind of falling off a cliff into that $1,400, $1,500 range. I find it really hard to believe that we're going to see this Umbreon break below $1,000 anytime soon. And then for the other evolutions, the Sylveon, the Leafeon, if these start Espeon as well, if those cards start breaking under 300, I imagine people are going to start buying them. And then maybe some of the lower quality ones like the Flareon, the Jolteon, the less popular Pokemon, I should say. If these break into the mid 200s, maybe even lower than that. Like, I can't imagine people wouldn't be buying them at those prices. But the point is, guys, whether you're in sealed product or you like doing singles, maybe do a little bit of both. Develop a plan, because we are going to see opportunities this year. I think everyone can kind of smell it. We can feel it coming. It's going to be here, and you need to be ready, because if you don't have your funds locked and loaded and you're not ready to pull the trigger once that time comes, you're probably going to miss out again. And this is going to be a huge opportunity, I think, for a lot of investors to build positions that maybe they didn't get the chance to before November of last year. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys are eyeing up any of these cards or any sealed product as well. With that said, thank you so much for watching the video. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.